Wouldn't it be a whole lot easier if the Lord simply came as the Lord comes in our first reading? Wouldn't it be a lot easier to have faith if God came in power and majesty and with lightning and thunder and horns, all sorts of signs that we could so visibly see and hear? Wouldn't it be easier, in a sense, to have that faith if the Lord came manifestly? Perhaps. But what kind of faith would it be? If we look at our gospel reading today, the Lord speaks in parables. Why does he speak in these parables? What is the function of the parable? Oftentimes they can seem to us like puzzles, like some kind of story told to us that we have to try to work out. And maybe that is the key to the parable. That parables contain within just a very short story, within a very short span, something which is far more significant. It contains within it secrets that are meant to be pulled out through faith. That it is in our faith that we are meant to investigate the parable. We are meant to see its universal significance. And looking again and again at a parable, there is always something more to be drawn forth. There is always something more that addresses our heart and addresses our condition. Those who tell stories, a good storyteller, is one who tells a story that is not only satisfactory through one reading, but who tell a story that constantly fascinates us. And generally speaking, that story fascinates us because it addresses something within our human nature. It addresses some question, something that we've needed to plumb and to really consider and contemplate in our lives. The Lord tells parables for the same reason. The Lord desires our faith to be based not on great wonders, not on a voice coming from heaven or thunderstrokes or lightning or the sound of a trumpet. The Lord desires us to have an even greater faith than the people of Israel. He desires us to have that greater faith in his Son, a faith in the Son who comes as one like us in all things but sin. And he desires to plumb the depths of his message, to see that his message addresses not just people 2,000 years ago, but that his message addresses us and addresses our needs, that the Lord, in our need and our desire for happiness and beatitude, that the Lord desires to speak to us now, here, today, in the words of a parable, in a simple story, a story that is deceptively simple, we might say. It is deceptively simple because as we plumb the depths of these parables, we come to see more and more the grace which God has for us. We come to hear the words of Christ spoken to us here and now. And in encountering that challenge, that difficulty that the parable presents for us, we are also invited more and more, deeper and deeper into the heart of Christ, into the heart of his message. We are invited to this heart of his message through faith, through what we have been given in our baptism. And it is precisely through that faith that we will receive more graces by contemplating that message of Christ more and more deeply in our lives, by being constantly open to that word of Christ. This is why the Lord says that for those who have, more will be given. We have been given our faith, and it is through that faith that we are called and invited into an ever deeper relationship with the Lord, a deeper relationship that can never come to its ultimate depths. We will never grasp the Lord absolutely and completely. The Lord invites us through these parables into a relationship with him, to hear him speaking to our hearts and speaking a word that we need to hear, sometimes a word that we find it difficult to receive. The Lord desires us to enter more and more deeply into his image and likeness. And so he invites us by means of these words, of these parables, into something even greater. Those of us who have read C.S. Lewis's Narnia books might remember that last book, The Last Battle. And at the very end of that book, the characters are all invited to come to this garden that's at the very top of a hill. So they're coming to this garden. They open the doors of the garden and enter in, and suddenly there's a whole world within the walls, the small walls of this garden. A world that seems to extend farther and deeper. A world that seems to go beyond their imaginings. And so what looked small on the outside is in fact very large on the inside. Our relationship with the Lord is like that, and these parables likewise are like that. They invite us through a small story to enter that gate, to enter into that deeper relationship which Christ calls us to through not only his parables, but also through the word spoken to us in the sacraments and that word spoken to us through our daily lives lived in grace. And so the Lord invites us today to enter into his word, to listen and to hear, and hearing, understand, and to receive the grace which his word has for us, that grace which answers the uttermost longing of our heart.